No price talk and no Lambos. This is not another crypto podcast. Welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Jillian, and each week we will be looking at the problems solved by blockchain. I'll be going deep with the people building the apps and communities which are changing the world around us. Now, good morning. Welcome to Ignition, the EOS podcast from Dublin, with me, Jillian Gotzel. And today I have a very interesting interviewee candidate. We've been chatting already, and I think we've used up all the questions. I have to go back over them again. But I'm interviewing Tom Norwood, who is the founder of Trybe, which is a social and educational platform for cryptocurrency and blockchain community. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Jillian. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Okay, now before we get into the Trybe platform itself, I want to find out a bit about you because I was all over your LinkedIn like a rash, and I'm pretty sure everything you've done so far in your career has sort of ended up being represented in the platform. So, food, discuss. What have you done in the food industry?
In the food industry, I have obviously eaten a lot of food, but apart from that, I do have a restaurant, a Spanish tapas bar here in Melbourne, which is where I live. I guess I've always, been a big foodie and loved food, and I guess it's just one of those things you always talk about doing is, we should open a bar. I always talk about with my partner, we should open a bar, we should have our own bar. Somehow you think you can do it better than everyone else, and then you do it and you realize you can't actually do it better than everyone else, and it's a lot harder than you actually ever imagined it would be. So that was a huge learning experience, but it's a great lifestyle. I mean, we still have the tapas bar in the city.
It's still well done. Because opening a restaurant or launching a magazine, they're two of the most fraught activities. They're, 1 in 10 only survive. It's very difficult. But Spanish is a big part of your life because you also have a Spanish language school as well. Exactly,
that's right. Yeah, I lived in Mexico for about 4.5 years altogether, and my partner's Mexican. And so, Spanish ever since I was about 20 and went to Mexico the first time has played a big part in my life. And yeah, that's right. I have a language school and now the tapas bar. And as you just said, I think having a restaurant is like entrepreneur's boot camp. I mean, if you can survive the restaurant business, I think you can survive any business. And it's great training because the profit margins are so thin. There's so many things that can go wrong. You really have to be on your toes as far as business, just business acumen really is concerned when it comes to having a restaurant. So I think if you ever want to get trained as a business person, then just have a restaurant for a year and you'll learn everything you need to know really quickly.
Boot camp for entrepreneurs. Excellent expression. Yeah, cool. But you're also interested in film. You've spent a year making films, all right?
Exactly. I mean, I've been interested in writing in general. So I've done a lot of writing. I've written a book. I spent years and years, slaving away, being like pretending I was an author, which I guess I was because eventually I did produce a book.
Excellent.
And I wrote a short film as well and did a documentary. So I've sort of been in sort of the arts, I guess, for a long time. And that's always been a major part of my life. But, as you know, I know that you're also a writer. And as you know, it's hard to make money from that, unfortunately. So I've always ended up doing something else at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes a busy person writes better. If you sit in front of your laptop and you had all day to start your next novel, would anything come out?
You can sit there for a few days, that's right, or a few months or years, or you can just have a lot come out and none of it actually mean anything. I think you're right. It's actually good to have a balance to do something real with your life and then, write about it at the same time. I think that's
well, that's cool.
Yeah,
and then, so you have the restaurant, you're a filmmaker, you're a writer, an author, you have a Spanish school, you've been an English teacher, but you've also been involved in the digital world. So creating websites, and you credit your online acumen, which resulted in the Spanish school being quite so successful.
Yeah, I think, look, in all the businesses that I've ever done, my main role in them has actually been, on the website and digital marketing side of things. So I've always worked with other people who have done the actual work, I guess, like, for example, with the Spanish school, we have teachers and admin and everything, and I've always just focused on the digital side. So, yeah, the digital marketing and building the website. And that's sort of where my main skill lies. And yeah, even with the restaurant, I build the website for that and do all the digital marketing for that as well. So that's kind of my main role in all of those businesses, which is the key factor, the linking factor between them.
So when did you first meet blockchain? When did that come into your life? Or was it Bitcoin? Was that the first introduction you had to the industry?
Yeah, Bitcoin was definitely the first introduction. Look, to be honest, I used to buy weed on Silk Road. And that was that was many years ago. And that was when I first got introduced to Bitcoin. I was like, what is this?
I've never met anybody who admitted to that.
And that was probably like 10 years ago. Bitcoin was, well, maybe not 10, but, nearly. And Bitcoin was like $10 at the time. It was nothing.
Yeah.
And I used to spend it all on weed. So I just wasted all my Bitcoin. If only I'd kept a few of them and not just, I just used to use it for transfer, obviously. And, even then, I think I did keep I had probably like 3 or 4 Bitcoin on Silk Road when it got taken down. And so at today's price, I lost, whatever it is, $25,000 or $30,000.
That would be a nice holiday.
It was probably only worth, exactly. At the time, it was only worth a few $100s, I think. So it wasn't a massive loss.
Okay, so Bitcoin major. So when did the technology become apparent, or how did it become apparent too?
I think, look, ever since then, I kind of kept a bit of an eye on Bitcoin. And then about a year or so ago, I sort of, Ethereum came out and, it became more than just a currency. I mean, cryptocurrencies became more than just a currency with Ethereum, really. They sort of started to become, a whole operating system, like a whole sort of platform for applications and things. And that's when I really started getting interested in them more for the technology side of things and for the currency side of things. And, around about the same time, I discovered EOS as well. And then that was when
EOS really your first flirtation, or did you flirt with all?
No, I'd already bought, I already had like a bunch of currencies. So I was sort of trading currencies, by then. And somehow through that trading, I ended up coming across EOS and realizing the potential, of this technology, that it was, as I said, so much more than just a currency. It was, a whole way to, because I was already into sort of software and web development and things like that. I sort of realized its potential in that sense. Mm-hmm. And then its potential for business as well, in terms of, how to organize a business and how to motivate people and how to, I guess, get everybody working towards a similar goal, and how it can be used as, as a share in a business in a way, which is, what I've done with Trybe. At the moment, I'm just sort of, we're allocating tokens to everybody. So everyone's kind of got like a share in the business.
I've been calling it Trybe. It's Trybe. Oh my goodness!
It's just Trybe.
Epiphany.
You can call it Trybe.
I was like, I can try this and I can be that. I said, I thought it was Trybe. Oh my god! How foolish of me. Trybe.
No, that's totally fine.
Wow.
Fine. It was.
Sorry about that.
It's only spelled like that because I couldn't get the domain name with an I.
Well, the Trybe is kind of nice too as well. I want to try this. I want to be this. That's what I was thinking. It was like a nice sort of idiosyncratic way of.
It works like that as well. I was actually going to call the currency just Try, because three letters works well. So
yes,
I thought maybe it's not the best name for a currency, just Try, Try. But you're right, Trybe. I'd never actually thought of that.
Tribe, I love tribe. And tribe is such a current word. Who is your tribe? I mean, this is the whole thing. You hear professors talking the whole time about finding your tribe. And is that why you like the EOS community? Because it is such a strong community.
It is a very strong community, exactly. It is a real sort of tribal feeling of being part of that community. And yeah, that's one of the reasons I like that. And I also like, as I mentioned to you, before the interview, the fact that everyone involved with EOS, or at least most people involved with EOS, do seem to be wanting to do something good for the world. I mean, people are sort of, everyone's, and maybe this comes from the top down, in that's kind of, Dan Larimer's kind of original vision as well, was to sort of, improve the world in one way or another. And he's created this software platform which will hopefully allow people to do that. And I feel like a lot of people working with it are trying to, do something beneficial for humanity in some way or another.
Yeah. Yes. And then tell me, so I was on your site again today, and your Trybe site. I have to really think about this now. But you talk about things like a knowledge loop. Knowledge is power, and it's decentralized intelligence. These are very big words, but very affirmative words. Explain to me a little bit about the platform.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it's my belief. I've been a teacher before as well, and as we talked about before, I have a Spanish language school. So I've always been very interested in education, and I think that there's up until now there hasn't really been a way online or in general which incentivizes people to share their knowledge. A lot of people do it, on forums and even on social media, just out of the goodness of their heart. I guess people do help out other people, especially in the software community. There's open source. The open source community is very helpful. But in general, people aren't really that incentivized to share their knowledge. And the only way to really do it is, well, you can either be a teacher or you can write a book, which is, as you know, a very long and arduous undertaking. Or you can create a course, on something like Udemy where, but again, that requires hundreds of hours of work. And it's very difficult for the average person just to go and create a course and put it up on Udemy. So I really wanted to find a way where people who had knowledge could share just little bits of that knowledge, very easily with the community and get rewarded for it. Like, okay, hey, I know a lot about this topic. I don't want to sit down and write a book about it or create a full online course about it, but I'm happy to, pop out a few articles, about this particular thing, which I know a lot about. And, if I get rewarded for it, or if there's some sort of incentive, like a tokenized incentive, then even better. And that will kind of incentivize me to keep producing content. So yeah, that was basically how that came about. And also, it really came about with, through the current social media, my disillusionment with current social media, which is just basically designed to create fake news and create sort of rubbish, essentially, that people spend hours and hours consuming. And so people are just getting dumber and dumber by consuming hours and hours of rubbish content. And I've sort of thought there really must be a better way. And, it's a dangerous situation, really, where news has been replaced by clickbait, and essentially no one really knows what's going on in the world. No one's incentivized to learn anything decent or teach anything decent either. People are just being, on social media, just incentivized to create rubbish, basically, because that's what it sort of promotes. So yeah, frustration with sort of existing social media, which I could see was taking over from real media, from a journalism, what used to be journalism, which was at least, you had an editor and there were standards which had to be upheld and it had to be truthful. You couldn't just write total rubbish and print it out there like you can on social media. So yeah, frustration with that and a sort of fear, I guess, as well, about where that was going to lead us and the world and everyone else, to create a platform which hopefully provides people with some more truthful information and incentivizes them to do so.
And are all your content creators on the site, are they all journalists, or is it just people who like to write or who have information? Do you have to have a certain standard of writing?
No, not at all. Anyone can create content. We do have editors on the platform, but again, they're just average people. They're not, specifically editors. And their job is just to make sure that it's not spam or total rubbish. Do you know what I mean? So they're not really sort of censoring any content. They're just reading the articles and saying, okay, is this a useful piece of information, basically? Does it deserve to be published? If it does, then they're publishing it and then allowing the community to decide how valuable it is. If it's total, if it's not very useful, then people downvote it and you actually lose tokens. So you get, disincentivized. Whereas if you create good quality content, you get, you earn tokens through that and you're incentivized to write more. So yeah, you don't have to, anyone, basically back to your question, anyone can write for the platform. There's no...
And what happens if, I'm a female writer online, right? So oftentimes I get trolls. Women get trolled more frequently and nastier sometimes than the male counterparts. What happens if I write a piece? Let's say I go all feminist and I'm going, men are bad and we really need to do this, whatever. So and maybe it's a belief that I have quite strongly, and maybe I express it in a, quite a, an edgy way, whatever. Would people just downvote me because they don't like my opinion?
Look, at the moment, the content is all about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. So it's not so much about personal opinions. So we haven't actually encountered that problem yet.
Because I've been talking about women in technology a lot recently, and I get a bit of a pushback sometimes, actually. It's like when I point out how good women are at everything. And then they go, people get very cross.
Right. Okay. Well, look, as I said, it's definitely not an issue that we've faced yet. And I'm not sure how people on the platform would react. Whether or not, I know people do react on there just because they don't agree with someone else's point, they'll downvote them. We're actually at the moment in the process of recreating our review system so that it takes all of these things into account.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite difficult to create some software which, doesn't allow trolls, or it diminishes the power of trolls. So that's essentially what we're working on at the moment, is creating a system where if you just continually troll people and downvote people, then your power diminishes each time you do that, down to the point where you no longer have any power at all. And the opposite is true as well. We've found there's kind of little mafias forming on the site where people are just upvoting each other, in a kind of ring, like, hey, I'll upvote you if you upvote me, kind of thing. So that's the other thing we're kind of trying to counteract with the software, is like, okay, you can't do that either. So there's all of these sort of humans just try to game the system, essentially. That's what we do. And so create some software which sort of counteracts against all of those different possibilities is tricky but interesting. Like, it's an interesting.
I know. I like the question, because I wrote for a bit I went on to Steemit, Dam's for second venture, but I just found that again, a lot of the whales were voting for the other whales, and it was. But mind you, I found that site difficult because it's more about. One of the whales said to me, "Just post small bits all the time." I'm going. I'm a long form writer mostly, so I don't want to point. I want to get to my argument in time, and it didn't suit me. So I think that your site sounds as if it would be a lot more interesting for me to write for it, because there's maybe space to actually expand a view rather than just here's a paragraph or something. Do you think that'll
exactly? In fact, we have a minimum of 300 words, and people do write very long pieces, and we're about to create an option for people to write series as well. So you can create a little series and then have, say, 10 parts in your series, and they're all linked together.
Oh, I'm interested.
A little sort of table of contents type thing. So we're definitely encouraging people to write, longer, more thoughtful kind of pieces, rather than just the typical social media type post, which is, short and generally meaningless.
Yeah. Does the content have to be original? Can you share from other sites? So there, have you got
you can repost. Yeah, it has to be your content, but if you post to sites and then you post on ours, that's fine. I mean, we prefer people to post on our site first, just for SEO purposes, but we definitely don't stop people from cross-posting.
Yes. In terms of building this, whereabouts are you now with Trybe? Is it in beta? Can you log into it?
Yeah, it's in beta. It's a working platform. We built the prototype. We've just built using WordPress, which is a very simple piece of software to use. And so we've created a working prototype, basically. It's not super scalable. So if we had, at the moment, we've only got, say, 10,000 users or something like that. If we had hundreds of thousands of users, it probably wouldn't work very well. It'd be too slow. But for the prototype, it's been perfect. And as we raise money, which we're about to start doing, we're about to launch our pre-sale next week, actually. And then have an ICO, not long after that. We'll actually build a custom platform, which is designed to be a lot more scalable.
That makes sense. And I imagine you would say that as an entrepreneur, surround yourself with good people is key.
It definitely is key. Look, I've been really lucky with this project. It's just attracted good people for some reason. I guess, as we were talking before, the EOS community is full of lots of great people already. And I suppose the project itself is sort of interesting to, people who are interested in education and knowledge and all of those sort of good things. So it's just grown organically, really. People have just sort of come on board and offered to help out with this and that. And we've grown quite a great, a good team of really great people really quickly.
I have to say, again, there's two things on your site that jumped out of me. One was, going back now earlier, you have a screenshot of the different topics where you can jump into different themes, whatever. One of them caught my eye. was a bit like clickbait. But anyway, it was like, get paid to watch porn. I don't know if you've seen that or not. It was kind of funny. I'm definitely going to go read that.
I have seen that article. I think it's the Vice token. Someone wrote an article about the Vice token, which is
okay.
It's a currency, so that's what that's all about. It's not
cool.
about our site. Unfortunately, we don't pay people to watch porn, or we probably have a lot bigger user base than we have.
Well, we do know that, I mean, the adult education industry, whatever your views on it, has done huge amounts for technology. Anyway, all the live cams and the data streaming and even e-commerce. And the interesting thing too, as well, but cryptocurrency is very important with the adult education, adult entertainment. Sorry, mixing my words there. Industry is that. People who are in that, they obviously normally can't get banking services. So using cryptocurrency is very important for them because they're doing this work, they need to get paid. And if the banks won't offer them a service because their name is, Dolly, Big Tits Dolly, whatever, I don't know, they won't accept her financial services, but they can do it using cryptocurrency, which is cool. But anyway, there's a second piece on your website too as well that is very funny. Adam Clark, he got into Bitcoin when one of his clients was demanded a ransom for 50 Bitcoin. What a great story there.
Yeah. He's our security network engineer, and actually he's sort of one of our lead developers, and I thought that was a great story as well.
I love it.
Great way to find out about it.
How much was Bitcoin when that person was ransomed?
I don't think it was that long ago. I think it might have been, a year or so ago. So
wow. Well, of course, we're all victim to that obviously Facebook had their hack, but LinkedIn was hacked a couple of years ago. But in Ireland, about a month ago, someone obviously sold a whole tranche of emails. We all got those emails, those ransomware ones where we know what you've been watching and we videoed you watching the stuff that you've been videoing, going back to porn again, whatever. And but what was scary about it, when I got it, what gave me a double jump was they had in the subject line my password. I went, whoa, and it kind of threw me. And then I realized, hang on, that's not the password I used for LinkedIn. That's a password for something else. But it was just, or for my email, but just enough for, it was all over the papers. And if you're like a school teacher, that's quite scary. Thinking, oh my God, will they do this, demanding Bitcoin? Like, have you seen those Black Mirror series on Netflix?
I have seen Black Mirror. Yes.
Yeah. The ransomware and that one, very scary. Now, obviously, they pushed it out to the very limits of what might happen within this scenario. But I'm sure a lot of people actually would have paid Bitcoin had they known how to do it, whatever. They would have paid it. So it is scary. So, and then also you have your other developers like Nathan. He's very strong EOS people. So you've actually hired from within the EOS community.
Yeah, Nathan was one of the first people I reached out to because, he's here in Australia, and also he's, well known within the EOS community as a developer, and I just sort of needed someone who really knew what they were doing. And it was great because sort of since, getting him on board, he's kind of attracted other people as well, because obviously, lots of people know him and trust him and want to work with him or work with projects that he's involved with. But yeah, as I said, people have just offered to kind of come on board. Apart from that, Adam offered, people have just, and a lot of them started as writers on the site as well. They just started writing, content for the site, and then just became more and more involved in that way. So it just kind of, it was a natural progression for them to then take on other roles, within the organization. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. But it does make sense if you're an entrepreneur and you're working in the EOS space, is to hire people expert in that space. I mean, that's like a no-brainer, really, isn't it? I know you've done it, and probably Nathan can't divide himself into multiple parts, but it makes sense to hire people who are knowledgeable in the area that you're working.
Exactly. It's very difficult, unfortunately, because there aren't that many people who are knowledgeable in the EOS space.
Yeah.
In fact, in the beginning, Nathan was one of the very few. I mean, him and NS James, who did Scatter, probably the two most well-known, and it was almost impossible to find any other devs out there who actually knew anything at all.
Wow.
I mean, it's getting, Adam has kind of been learning a bit from Nathan. He's kind of learned a lot on his own as well. And by now he can pretty much, not do anything, but he can do a lot by himself. But I suppose that's the case with a lot of devs. They're just really starting to learn how it all works.
I suppose that move goes back to your other, I said at the start of this interview, the other things you do. You're not presumably chefing in the tapas bar, and you're not teaching in the Spanish school. So you've learned to bring in people to do the things that you need to do, and the same way with EOS. So that would be a mark of a good entrepreneur, bringing in smart people.
Yes, exactly. Knowing what your own particular skills are, and kind of sticking to that and not trying to do everything. Because when you're starting up, there's a bit of a tendency, and sometimes you just have to do everything because you can't afford to hire other people or for whatever reason. But as you sort of learn what your skills are, just trying to. And these days, to be honest, I just try to find other people to take care of everything else, and I just focus on doing what I'm good at doing, and that generally works best.
And that's great advice. And is that the advice you'd give to another entrepreneur, or do you have other advice? I mean, that's super, do what you can do well and then bring in people to fill in the other gaps. Would that be your core piece of advice, or would you have any other advice to give entrepreneurs?
Other advice to give entrepreneurs. Look, I mean, I think the essential piece, like the most important piece of advice I give another entrepreneur is really just keep trying. Like, it just takes so long sometimes, and you just don't really get anywhere. And I guess I learned this through writing. I spent so long trying to write a book. I think it took me 12 years in the end. And eventually I got there. But it's sometimes, just perseverance is a massive one. And the other one is really do your market research. I mean, doing good market research can save you years of wasted time and hundreds of thousands of wasted dollars. I mean, if you do some good solid market research and you work out beforehand whether or not there's actually a market for what you want to offer, then that can save you a whole lot of heartache. And the other thing is just try to start as small as possible. Like, as I said, with this site, I just started with a WordPress website, which anyone can build in couple of days, basically. Like, it's nothing fancy. And don't go out and spend heaps of money. Don't go out and spend heaps of time. Like, just try to start, everyone talks about building an MVP. But if you can do that in this sort of the simplest, smartest way possible, just to see if there's any traction there. And, if it starts to work, then build it. But don't go out and, build a huge platform or anything before you've really A, done your market research, and B, built the smallest version of what you want to do, of what you want to build possible before building a larger version.
That is very powerful advice. And you're obviously proving it because you have, 10,000 people already on your MVP and your beta version. So that's amazing. So Tom, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And I'm so glad I've learned how to pronounce your Trybe correctly. So I like the Trybe. I want to try.
You can keep calling it Trybe all you like to.
Yeah. I'm the only person in the world doing it. And so if people want to get hold of you, so it's Trybe.one is the website. Is that correct?
Trybe.one is a website. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So they can go on there. On Telegram, I'm, to be honest, these days I spend most of my life on Telegram when I'm awake. So I'm always available on Telegram. But yeah, the website or the Trybe public group on Telegram as well has, there's always someone from the team on that group. So people can ask questions if they need to.
Excellent. Yep. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. That is Tom Norwood, the CEO and founder of Trybe. Of Trybe. Thank you very much for your time today. That's brilliant.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for chatting, Jillian. It's been great.